Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is Talking Heads. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network, and I'm also an expert presenter here on our Talking Heads platform. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the art of interviewing. And while there are many different types of interviews, today we're going to focus on an interview on a podcast, on a broadcast, maybe with a journalist who's interviewing you for an article. So obviously there's the interviewer and there's the interviewee. Today we're going to focus on the interviewer. And I'd like to share that in my experience, there are different types of interviewers. There are what I would call order takers. There are script followers, and there are people who are truly engaged in learning, in featuring curiosity about the other person. So let's walk through each of these types and see if you can relate to any of them. Maybe you feel that you've been this person. And of course, you don't have to be interviewing someone for a media production, but you could be interviewing someone for a job. You could be interviewing someone for really any number of things. If you think about it, we interview each other every day, just as human beings. So an order taker, in my estimation, in my experience, is someone that is just focused on being visible or being seen by the other person, and they have an agenda. And maybe the agenda is they want to sell something, or maybe they want to influence you about something. So in that regard, they're always focused on themselves, and they're probably not really even looking at you or paying attention to you if you are on a one-on-one basis where you can see each other. The next type is the person who follows a script. And we've seen this so many times. We don't use scripts here at USA Global TV and Radio for a specific reason. But someone with a script, and I can liken this even to a salesperson who is meeting with a senior level executive, they've got a number of questions and they're intent on getting through all the questions. They're probably not even paying attention to what the answers are they're getting, because they've got to get through the questions. Because if they don't, they won't have succeeded in their mission, which was to get through the questions. So I don't really want to spend any more time on those, because I want to spend time on something that I think is truly an art, and that is the art of being an expert interviewer. Prior to this Talking Head session today, I met with several other people who do interview people for a living. They are journalists or broadcasters. And one thing that kept coming up over and over again is that true desire to learn about the other person. It's not about me. It's about them. It's not about you. It's about the other person. So if you are in life having an opportunity to interview someone, please do pay attention to these tips, because I think it will make you stand out even more, whether it's in your profession or in your career or just in your life. People want to feel heard. People want to feel safe. People want to feel they have a voice. And so many times we have a gift. Somebody hands us, they're going to share their story with us. But what do? We interrupt them. We take the story and make it our own. You can see this all the time on network television, podcasts, wherever you watch or listen to a show. The host jumps in and steals the story back from the other person instead of listening, processing, and then asking another powerful question on this topic so that the guest can dig deep and the guest can share something maybe they've never shared before. How many times do we hear in interviews? I personally have heard it myself, I'll be honest with you, when people say, "Oh, I always get asked this question." So that's probably not a great question, right? That's something that I learned is people will go into robot mode almost when they're being interviewed, even for a job interview after they've gone to a number of job interviews. They'll just start going into automatic robot answers. But when you come up with a question they never anticipated and you catch them off guard, that's an opportunity for them to go deeper and look within themselves and then share that moment with you. And when that happens, that is truly magic. I've been told many times, that's a great question. I never thought about that. So, how does this happen where you ask a question like this? You might be saying to yourself, well, that probably means a lot of research. I've got to do a lot of work. I've got to research this and research that. No, you have to listen and follow the story. And you have to have this incredible sense of curiosity that you want to learn more. Now, are there cases when you will do research, maybe extensive research on an issue, on a topic, on a guest? Yes, there definitely can be those opportunities. And in those cases, maybe it's a matter of looking at all sides of the issue so that when you're interviewing someone and they're looking at it from one point of view, you can propose a question from an alternative point of view to see how they respond. So many times we are adamant about how we feel on a topic, but wouldn't it be nice to hear how the person feels on the other side of the topic? And you can provide that opportunity, or you can possibly propose the opposite point of view and see how they react. So it's really pivotal that you put any preconceived ideas or notions aside when you're doing an interview. Now, something I'll share, this is a personal story that actually happened to me. I was being interviewed by someone who was on network news, and they weren't an anchor, but they're pretty well known in New York. And I went to New York to have this interview, and the person showed up in a very unprofessional outfit. I'm not judging, but the person was not dressed professionally. It was almost like they had either just gotten off the softball field or they were going to one. And they came and sat right next to me in my personal space. They had a whole bunch of papers, and the papers were containing information about me because I could see the information. So the person said right before we were about to go live with this interview, if I could summarize what was on the papers. And I said, I have no idea what is on the papers. I don't know what you have or where it came from. But I immediately felt, I am so sorry that I made this trip because this person is not curious about me. This person is not showing me or themselves or the profession any respect or the respect that is due. So, of course, as the interview commenced and it proceeded, it was about an hour and a half long. The person started asking the same questions. One question this person asked 3 times. And the producers who were watching, you could hear them go, oh, because they knew this person wasn't even engaged in any way, shape, size, or form. So, why I bring that up is when you are interviewing someone, again, whether it's for the media, whether it's for a job, people will remember how they felt sitting across from you or looking across at you on Zoom. They'll know if you're really there or if you're just checking boxes. So if you think that interviewing is easy, it's not, but it's also not difficult. It's a matter of, again, truly listening and being curious. Now, you have to have a great first question, because the first question is what gets the other person to open up. Now, you don't necessarily want to have a very deep first question because that might put the other person back on their heels a little bit. Remember that the person you're interviewing may be nervous. Maybe they're not used to being interviewed. Maybe there's some issues going on behind the scenes in their life that have put them a little at not at ease, or maybe they are championing some initiative or some new way of looking at something, and other people are relying on them. So you want to make sure that you treat your guests with the utmost respect, make them feel they're in a safe place, and we'll talk about that, and then truly make them the hero of the show. The show's not about the interviewer. When you have a job interview, it's not about the boss. It's about, or the hiring manager, it's about that person sitting across from you. Is this a good fit for them? Are you a good fit as an interviewer for whatever it is you're representing? So I just mentioned about making people feel they are in a safe environment. What does that mean? It means being kind. It means being gracious. It means letting them know what to expect. So on our website, usaglobaltv.com, you'll see when you go to book your session, there's a whole section there about what to expect. And I expect my co-hosts and my team members to review this with the guests. And then we survey the guests after they have been interviewed to ask them, was the interview what you expected? And that's really key, because if someone's showing up expecting one thing and then there's something else that's happening, they don't feel at ease. And now when you start asking them questions, they might get very defensive because they're looking at you in a different way. Instead of you being the gracious host, the host has put them at ease. You're the host who now threw them a curveball right before the interview. So now they're not focused on the question that you ask or the topic. I shared just a few minutes ago, and I want to mention it again, that the interviewer, especially if it's a media production, is not the star of the show. So many times I see this. I've seen it here on this network. I've seen it on network television. I've seen it everywhere, where the interviewer takes the entire topic and makes it about them. And the guest is literally sitting there. You can see the guest, like they're starting to feel curious, like, I thought this was my interview. I don't really understand this. It's not about your ego as an interviewer. It's about getting the other person in a comfortable, safe space where they know that they can share their story and you're going to listen. And you're listening so intently that the time flies by. You're not looking at the clock going, oh, I've got 5 more questions. What should I do? That doesn't work. And it doesn't work in business either, because so many times we miss where the conversation's going because we're focused on ourselves. We're focused on what we're selling. We're focused on what's important to us. And the other person literally hands us these nuggets of incredible, powerful information that if we were fully engaged, we would be able to take that information and dig deeper with that guest. And from there, what do you have? You have a connection. You have a relationship. You have trust. Trust is the key. I am adamant at this platform that everyone who is on our team take the power of listening, our course about how to listen at an elevated level. And to be honest with you, not everyone has taken it. But starting next year, if a member does not take it, they're no longer a member. And the reason is because I want everyone here to be focused on listening at an elevated level. There are many times I see shows and it's almost like it's a therapy session. And that's fun sometimes, right? Where people are just sharing things. I've certainly done it myself. As long as the guest feels included. And if you were supposed to be discussing a specific topic, that guest may be well prepared for that topic. And if you, again, throw them a curveball by talking about something else, that's going to create or could create distrust. So, in order to make that powerful connection, in order to let that other person know they're important and that their story has meaning, you need to establish trust. One thing I like to do, and I put this out there to each and every one of you who is interviewing, whatever your capacity is, I like to set the stage before actually getting on the stage. Mr. Jones, thank you so much for coming here today. Have you been on this platform before? Okay, what I'd like to let you know is what to expect today. How would that be? Excellent. Our show today is 40 minutes long. We're going to take one commercial break that's going to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds. During that time, and I lay it all out. What questions do you have for me, Mr. Jones? Do you understand the process? Are you comfortable with it? Excellent. And then we move forward. Now, the guest knows what to expect. If you're interviewing someone for a job, they come into your office, you meet them in the cafeteria or an airport. I forget where we used to meet in airports. We used to meet in airports somewhere, and you would meet your prospective boss. But you just say to them, "Okay, here's what I'm planning for today. We're going to meet for about half an hour. During the first 10 minutes, I'll give you an overview of how I ended up at this organization, what we're doing here. Then I'd like to hear from you. And then I'd like to discuss if we're a good fit, if we're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us." Then the person knows exactly what to expect. When you don't lay out, first of all, the amount of time that you're going to be together, that other person could be focused on, I wonder how much longer we're going to be sitting here. He didn't tell me how long I'm going to be here. I've got to get home. I have a meeting. I need to call someone. I was supposed to do this. And now they're not engaged. So level set the playing field about what to expect. And then stick to it. Stick to it, meaning after you've already told them what to expect, that's what you should give them. Now, if it turns out that your engagement is going so well that you would like to extend it because you have more questions, you want to introduce the person to other people, you want to explore another topic, let them know and ask for permission. Mr. Jones, I'm really enjoying this interview with you today. I've got some other questions. Would you happen to have another 15 minutes so we could explore XYZ? You know what? I don't have it today, but I'd love to come back. Fantastic. So what if you're actually in a job situation where you're being interviewed and they ask you that? That's a tough one because this might be the only opportunity you get with that person. But they also could be testing you to see if you set boundaries. So be aware of that. Follow your instinct, follow your gut when it comes to that. Okay, so what else can we do to be an expert when it comes to being an interviewer? Remember, you're not presenting. I'm presenting right now. That's what this platform is. Talking heads are experts who present their expertise. But this is a very different role than when I'm interviewing. When I'm interviewing, I am paying very close attention to my guest and my guest body motions, movements. I'm also watching my co-hosts if I happen to have a co-host. Are they engaged? Are they checking their phone? How are they interacting with the guest? Why are these things important? Because it's an interview, it's not a presentation, and your role is to ask thought-provoking questions and listen to follow up with another question. So I hope you understand the difference between being an expert presenter as opposed to being an expert interviewer. Some of the things that I've seen that have really caused me to kind of shake my head is some people have podcasts, and listen, our shows turn into podcasts as well. But a podcast has a different format And many times you don't actually see anyone. You're listening to that dialogue. And when you're not watching and you're listening, you can hear the host cut off the other person, or you can hear the host provide a solution for the other person, or you can hear judgment. Oh, really? I can't believe it. And that makes for a very biased interview. I'm sure you've seen and heard interviews where the host was definitely biased one way or another. I do not give my opinions about someone else's story or thoughts because it has nothing to do with me. And I ask people on our team, set your own personal feelings aside. We had one show, which we don't have anymore, and had a co host who was furious with what the guest was talking about. And the person was putting into the private chat that they were going to get off the show and that they couldn't believe this. And obviously, that topic triggered something for that person, for the co-host, and that person could not control themselves. That's not a good interviewer. That's someone who has an issue that needs to be addressed, which has nothing to do with me or this platform. But the guest felt very uncomfortable, and I had to go and speak with the guest afterwards and apologize to let the guest know that that's not acceptable here on our platform. And it's not acceptable in life either to judge someone else. There's so much judging going on, but that's a topic for another time. Our focus today is how to be an expert interviewer. So, regardless of what the other person says, we don't show any facial expressions. Now, are there times when this is difficult? Yes, there are times when I actually started crying because the guest was saying something that was just, you could feel their pain. I could feel the pain. It was profound. And I started to cry, and I was very upset with myself because that's unprofessional. Because if I'm crying, then the guest is going to keep crying, and then we're all crying, and then this is not an interview. But it's also being a real person. And I want you to think of some of the most successful, well-known television shows. And do you see emotion in the journalists? So, for example, 60 Minutes. Think about that show. When you think about the people who do the interviews, do you see them getting emotionally engaged? Maybe sometimes they do, but typically you do not. Do you see them reading from a script? No. Sometimes we see they have notes in front of them, and that might be because you have historic dates or facts that you don't want to misinterpret or misrepresent. And that definitely is important. You also want to make sure that you introduce the person according to how they want to be introduced. And this is also a sign of respect and how you build trust for someone. So let's say you decided to do some research and you found out information that this person is known as XYZ. And I'll give an example for myself. I have the name Dr. Jacalyn registered. It is officially registered, trademarked, and that is my name. That is my name in business. It's my name on this platform. And I have had people introduce me as Dr. Jackie. I don't know who Dr. Jackie is, that it is not me. I don't even use Jackie. In fact, my family doesn't call me Jackie. They try their hardest not to. Sometimes they slip up. But the point is, once I hear Jackie or Dr. Jackie, you have lost my respect because you didn't ask me how I wanted to be addressed. And you didn't ask me how I'd like to be introduced. So this is vitally important. Just because you think you know what someone wants, you don't. So again, why is this important? Because we're talking about being an expert at interviewing at the highest level. And again, it's creating that trust with your guest. If you start off introducing your guest by a name he or she does not use, or a title they no longer use. Maybe you look them up on LinkedIn, for example, and you see that they own XYZ company, but yet they're coming to your show, your podcast. They're coming to you to represent a charity. And today they are a volunteer for XYZ charity. They don't want anything about what they do in business mentioned because it's a distraction from why they're there. So what happens? You lost that credibility. You lost that opportunity to make that connection with that person. So, as we come to the end of this particular episode, what I will leave you with is this: the art of interviewing is truly a gift, but it's not a gift that comes for free. It means that you have to do your work depending on whom you're interviewing and depending on what the topic is will determine how much research you have to do, how many facts you have to check. But the bottom line is, regardless of who you are as the interviewer or who you are interviewing, you must establish trust. You must create a safe space for people to share their story. You must be fully present and completely engaged and thinking nothing, just listening. When they finish speaking, you let there be a few moments to breathe, because now you're going to ask another question, and this person just got done sharing something. They need a moment or two to gather themselves. Based on what they just shared, then you ask another question where they left off. Are there times when you can change the topic? Absolutely. When does this happen? This happens when you're supposed to be interviewing them about a specific story or a specific occurrence, and the guest takes the conversation somewhere else. You should follow along with where they go and then ask for permission to bring the story back to what the topic is supposed to be. If they say no, they want to stay on point with wherever you are, you stay where you are. Because again, it's not about you. It's not a tug of war between the interviewer and the interviewee. It's not about you, the interviewer, getting brownie points because you pulled the rug out from underneath the guest and threw another topic at them that they didn't want to discuss. That is so important. Stay away from any personal issues that you may have come about upon on your own. Maybe somebody shared information about this person. That has nothing to do with the interview. And if you bring that up and blindside that person, for example, oh, Susan Jones, I heard you're going through a really bad divorce. How's that going? No. You just put the person on the defensive. You made a fool of them, and you brought up a topic that is probably highly emotionally charged for them. And now you're not going to get the interview that you could have gotten if you stayed away from topics like that. So, thank you for your time today. I really do appreciate it. If I can help you in any way with learning how to be an expert when it comes to interviewing, learning how to be an elevated listener, if I can help you with these topics or with your participation on our platform here at USA Global TV and Radio, please do reach out to me. You can find me on usaglobaltv.com/contact us, drjacalyn.com/contact us, or either of my email addresses, which I will put into the chat. We are having a special right now on the power of listening. This is an automated 2-hour course that you can take at your convenience on our platform. The course is $30. I have made it $30 for everyone, so as many people in the world can get educated on how to listen. Why is this important? Because when we know how to listen, we can teach others how to listen, to have that one-on-one connection, to have that respectful conversation instead of all the arguments that take place and people searching and desperate for control of a conversation instead of being gracious and giving as a listener. Thank you again. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone around the world who is struggling with something, whether it is the survivors of Hurricane Ian or the people who are just being hit with that, whether it's people in the UK who are going through the high petrol prices and the food prices and the pounds losing value. All over the world, people are struggling. And I just want you to remember you're not alone. Find someone who will listen to you and give them that same gift back. And then this world would be such a wonderful place to live. Thank you again. Bye for now.